Welcome to my session, Become a Business Application Superstar in 5 Steps. My name is Nicole, and before we start with this session, please let me introduce myself. I'm working as a team lead for cloud workplace solutions at CONET. CONET is a company in Germany, well known in the public area, but we also have a lot of projects in the private sector. So we are doing consulting and software development for a lot of technologies. But my main focus is in Microsoft 365, so I'm helping others to build a social intranet, to create a modern workplace, and to improve collaboration. And in Microsoft 365, I focus on SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and the Power Platform. As you can see on the slide, I've written several books. So in 2013, I wrote my first book about SharePoint 2013. And it evolves throughout the years. So last year, I published the book about SharePoint 2019. But I also started a new series, and that's about collaboration with Office 365. And in July, we will publish the Microsoft 365 edition. So that's regarding all the new updates which came up during the last 12 months. Yeah, and currently I'm working on a Teams book, so I will explain how to use Microsoft Teams for commercial, but even for the education sector. On a beginner level. Yeah, these books are all on German, so I'm sorry if you cannot read them, but I'm also active in English on Twitter and on my own blog. So you see my Twitter handle, for example, here, and I always like to get new followers or to get in contact with other persons, because we have so cool discussions right there. And even in the current situation where everybody is now or has been at the home office and uses tools like the Microsoft 365 platform. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about business applications. My goal for this session is that you see that everybody, and I mean everybody, can build a business application. Maybe not the most complex business applications, but you have the skills and you have the tools to start with your business application, and maybe you can reach your goal without needing somebody else. So here, for example, we have Tanya. She will be there for nearly the whole session, and Tanya is working in the HR department. And now she says, we need a business application. Maybe we need a recruiting system. And what's going on there? Why does she say that she needs a business application? When I'm in such meetings, I ask another question first. So what's about the current business process? She says she wants a new business application, so maybe she has an old one, or she has no business applications, no tool at the moment, but she must have a business process, and maybe it's not the best one. Maybe she wants to change something. We don't know at the moment, so let's start. How is your current business process going? Do you have Word forms you have to fill out, or do you have to talk with other persons? How many roles or persons are belonging to your business process? And we need to know how complex it is. And when we get an idea about the current business process, then we should also talk about, should we optimize or change the current process? Because if you are looking for a tool, and there are a lot of tools out there on the marketplace, then maybe a tool doesn't fit all the needs you have if you create or you describe your business process. So we need to talk with Tanya about if she wants to change something. If she is not flexible, then maybe we will get some problems during the selection of a tool. And that's the next point. Do we want to support the whole business process with an IT solution? So maybe there are some process steps which need so much flexibility that we don't find an IT solution, not on the marketplace, and it would be very hard to build it as a custom IT solution. So we need to talk with Tanya if there are several business process steps that can be done outside of a system. And if we have the answers on these 3 questions, then we are ready to start. And Tanya, she's working a long time in the company. And in the company, SharePoint was used for many years. So she says, I know what's going on in SharePoint. I'm some kind of a power user. So I start building my recruiting system with SharePoint. So she creates her first lists. She added the necessary fields, and then she arranged it. So she changed the order of these fields and added some simple validations, for example, mandatory fields. And she's now working for a long time in the company, so she learned that there's something called InfoPath, and she created her first InfoPath forms. Why did she do that? The InfoPath Designer was a part of the Microsoft Office product suite, so she had it ready to go on her PC, and the InfoPath Designer was a tool for power users to create electronic forms. So she started with her SharePoint lists, and then she decided, okay, I need a little bit more. So she could click on a button, please open my SharePoint form in InfoPath, and then she could do so much more. InfoPath was integrated in SharePoint in the on-premises scenario, and she could also build some simple workflows. For example, she could change the layout of a form completely. She could decide that she needs a 2 or 3 column layout instead of the 1 column layout she knows from SharePoint. She could add so many different rules for validations, for the visibility of complete areas or single fields or button, and she could also create multiple views. And that's important if you have many fields in your SharePoint list and you don't want to show them all at the beginning. So she created different views, maybe for the contact information of a candidate, then the next one for the fields for the job application, and so on. So that was really cool for her. And even when somebody clicks on the button that the data is stored in the SharePoint list again, she could also send an email, maybe to the person who should evaluate the application. And finally, Tanya was a little bit lost because she did a lot of with SharePoint and with InfoPass, and then two things happened. In the really old projects, she reached a point where she couldn't make it on her own anymore. And nowadays, somebody told her, yeah, InfoPass is not the option anymore. We are going to the cloud. So forget what you did in the past. We have now new tools. Maybe you can work with them, but please forget InfoPass because it's not allowed anymore in the cloud. Yeah, and Tanya, she has a nice colleague, and this colleague is called Matthew, and he is a software developer. So she said, okay, I don't reach my goal on my own, so maybe I need a software developer, and Matthew can help her. And then he says, okay, I understood what you mean. Tanya, don't be worried about. I think I can't use your SharePoint and InfoPass solution, so please forget it. It was a nice prototype, but I will build you something really custom and pretty cool with HTML and JavaScript. And did you hear about SPFX? You can build cool web parts there, so I will build this. And I think for the candidate information that we get this into the employee database, I need some PowerShell, and I will create a .NET web service for this. And he is talking and talking, and he doesn't see that Tanya is a little bit afraid what he's talking about, because she says, what is he doing? And did he understand me? So I hope that he understood me, but I'm not sure. So at this moment, Tanya is not sure what's going on there, and but she's afraid to ask these questions. And so we now have to wait until Matthew says, okay, I'm ready to go. Here you can see my first results. And then Tanya can say, okay, that's right. That's the right direction for my business solution. Or she says, no, I wanted to do something else. Yes, and why don't we proceed this way? I think the answer to this question is quite clear. We will have many situations when you have the person who knows the business process very well, and you have a developer. So both persons need to get a common understanding what the new business application should look like. And nobody else will know it better than Tanya here in this case. So what's going on? The world has changed. If you see this picture, maybe you will know that I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, but I really like the idea behind the several scenes. So the world has changed. We have so many tools out there to build custom solutions, and I think we have some kind of a evolution. Maybe it's also a revolution. So for many use cases, you don't need a hardcore software developer anymore, and it's a time of citizen developers, and you can build your own app. So if you know Lord of the Rings, then you know these little hobbits who are the heroes of the whole story, because they make it, and they are quite important in the whole storyline. And I like this picture because maybe you don't think that you are able to do this, to build a recruiting system or something else. And these hobbits, they won't make it through the end without the help of others, but they have an important role, and that's your role at this moment. So if you think about what's going on in Microsoft 365, and if you log into office.com, you will see some similar picture here. Microsoft offers you a lot of tools. And Tanya, for example, she only knew SharePoint in the on-premise world, but she knows SharePoint. And the other tool was InfoParse, and so now somebody tells her InfoParse is not your tool anymore. We are going to the cloud, so you don't have the option here. And so what should she do? Are there other tools she can work with? And I say yes. Because if we select a few of these tools here, and these are the ones of the Power Platform, then we will see in the live demo she has power to work with. And maybe that's the reason why it's called Power Platform, because you are empowered with these tools. And I want to focus in this session on 2 or 3 components here, because if you see on this line with the colored bubbles, we have Power BI for reporting and business analytics, but that's not so important for this session. We have Power Apps for the application development, and that's the main focus here in the session. Power Automate, that's for workflow components. I think we will see a little bit during the live demo. And the newest member of this family is Power Virtual Agents for building chatbots, for example. We will ignore during this session because that's another use case. I think it's more in the direction of artificial intelligence and some other kind of UI component. If you look on the bottom line, we have also some other components like data connectors to communicate between different systems. We have the PowerApps portals. That's a component you may need if you want to build an extranet. So if you want to communicate with external people in a secure way and give them access to internal data. The AI Builder is a cool thing too. I'm doing a lot of sessions where I show how to do some kind of forms processing, maybe scanning invoices and storing this information in a structured way. But in the session today, I want to focus on the common data service in combination with Power Apps and a little bit Power Automate. Only a few remarks here to Dynamics 365. I know that's an older picture, but what you can see here is that Dynamics 365 is based on the Power Platform. So Dynamics 365 has several modules which are components ready to go. For example, for HR management, for customer service, you have a ticket system, you have a marketing module, and so on. I really like this idea. You have to think about if these modules are right for you in your company. If you have some special requirements which can't be fulfilled with these modules, and even not with some enhancements there, because your process is too special, then you can build this on the Power Platform. And that's our part we will see now in the live demo, because let's build a business application. That's the step we now have here. And look here on my browser, and maybe I maximize it here. So we have the Power Apps Studio here. If you go to office.com and you click on Power Apps as the app, then you will have the same view as I have here. And what do you see here? You see here, okay, I can start with some data. So maybe I have a SharePoint list. That would be nearly the same way as Tanya did this with InfoPass. But maybe I have an Excel file, or I have a SQL a server database, or something else. So I could start with this data, then build my custom forms and so on. But maybe I want to go another way. So we have here also the way make your own app. And as you can see, we have 3 different kind of apps. We have the Canvas apps. Canvas apps are, I think that they have the focus on mobile apps, so you can use them on your smartphone. You can create really cool forms and with different screens and so on, so you can create your own screen story, and you have a complete custom layout if you want to have it. Then we have the model-driven apps. And model-driven apps, they are more belonging to this approach with starting with data. So in a model-driven app, you talk about which data you want to manage, and then you decide how the forms should look like, which different views you need on your data, and how the relationships are between your different data entities. And the last one, that's the extranet stuff, or that's a portal you would build. In this session, we will focus on the model-driven apps, because if we think about Tanya, who wants to create a recruiting system, she wants to enter data of her candidates and their applications for a new job. She wants to store data if a colleague evaluates or rates an application, and she needs to manage the results during this evaluation process. Maybe if we have done an interview with a candidate, what are we thinking about him? All these data should be stored at one central location. And what's really cool, she could build a second application, maybe for the employee management, and the data of the recruiting system could be used if a candidate is applied for this job, or if we engaged him. So we could start here, but I scroll a little bit down, so we see here also some tutorials that's from the Microsoft Learning Center. So we see how we could start with Power Apps, and here comes a list with all our apps we created in the past. For example, this one is the Service Report Scan app, where we are working with the AI builder, which you see here. Now I want to go here on the left navigation. Here we would see all apps which are available for us, but I want to show you here the data tab. I was talking about model-driven apps are working with data entities. So let's look what an entity is. And if we see here, we have a lot of entities here, and I can tell you that most of them were created automatically. So Microsoft thinks that we can use something like an account, or we need something like an address. Maybe let's check what an address looks like. And an address has several fields. So think about an entity as something like a data table. And here are the columns, so the fields of this entity. And they say, okay, maybe I need a name of my address, I need a contact, I need a city, country, and so on. So maybe I want to get some geo information right there, or a mobile or phone number or so. So this is only an idea or a suggestion from Microsoft, what they think what an address means. We don't need to use them, but we can use them. And for example, these out-of-the-box entities are used by Dynamics 365. As you can see here, or I see this at the moment, we will see this in a few seconds. Here are some entities which have a special prefix here, and that's a prefix I created in the past. So application history item, these are entities I want to use in my recruiting system. So this is the application for a new job. Maybe we see the candidate here. At the moment I don't see a candidate entity, but I will tell you why that's so when we go to our custom model-driven business application. Here's something else, e-recruiting application management. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I see it's a custom component, and the same here as an event. Event looks as maybe as an out-of-the-box entity, but it isn't here in this case. So we can see this, and I would say if you build a new business application and you want to see here which entities belong to your application, please use such a prefix. Okay, we have different other issues or options here, but I want to go and start our business application. And if we only create an app, then we could go here. But if we create maybe some entities and we have some business rules we want to implement, then I would recommend to go here with this solutions option. So if you click on this, you'll see different solutions here. For example, you see a lot of solutions here for Dynamics 365, or here in this case for Power Virtual Agents. These are used for the other components like Power Virtual Agents or Dynamics 365, but you also see here there's a custom solution, and that's, for example, from an event here a few weeks ago in Nashville. It was an online event, but I've done the same session there. Okay, I click here on New Solution because I want to create here our new solution for our session here. And now I can tell what's the name of my new solution. I say it's Omaha e-recruiting system. Or so maybe I call it services as for Nashville. And then here creating an internal name, and I can edit it. You see that it removes white spaces, for example. So if I see, okay, doesn't look really nice with this E at the beginning, can do this. And now I have to select or create a publisher. A publisher, if you are doing your business applications in your company by yourself, then your publisher can be called like your company name or maybe as your department, so that everybody sees in the list of all solutions who published this application. If you are working as a service provider for other companies, then maybe you should create a publisher which tells the others that you have built this application. So the customers say, okay, here in my case, that's built by Conet. So I could also edit the publisher, and here is the version number of my new solution. It starts with a new full release version. I could also change this. So, but for the start, that's enough. Yeah, and I can do some other options. For example, if I want to do some configuration when somebody installs this solution, then I could go with here. But for the beginning, I say that's fine. And even the package type unmanaged, that's also fine for me, because unmanaged means that I can edit my solution if I want to change something. If I'm a service provider and I want to deliver a solution, then I should change it later on to managed, so my customer can't make any changes in the future, and it's up to me to deliver new updates for him if he wants to change something. But here we want to build our own business application without a service provider, so we go with this option and we create our solution. Okay, what was going on? We have here our new solution, and if I click on this, nothing is there. So that's not a real surprise. And what do we next? We could go with new here, and you see you have a lot of options. So if I haven't prepared anything, then I would need to create my new entities, or maybe I would select some of the existing ones. I could also create a new flow with Power Automate, maybe an UI flow if I want to work with some external applications which don't have interface, which I can reach with a normal flow. Maybe I want to create a report, or I need something else. So you have a lot of options here. But what is really important, because we need some kind of a user interface, we want to create a new app. And we don't want to create a canvas app where we could select between phone and tablet form. We want to create a model-driven app. We will do this in a few seconds, but first I want to add our entities we need for the recruiting system. I said I don't go with this option because I already prepared these entities, so I'm going with add existing. And as you can see, you have here very similar options, a few more. For example, a chatbot can be added here, so you can create a combination of an app where you have a user interface where you have to enter your data. You could also go with the chatbot in a combination, so he selects a lot of information, and then maybe he uses a flow to add this data to the common data service, and then go with the Power App. But let's add the entities. What we can see here is a list with all our entities, and we had an application. I can also already see it here, but if it's a longer list, you could use the search bar and it will filter this list, so you can go with the application rating, the application itself, and maybe a history item or a rating, but let's go with application first. It asks here, what do we want to integrate in our solution? I say include all components. If you are going only with the entity metadata, then you would have the fields of your entity, but if some processes are belonging to this entity, you wouldn't have them. I want to have everything what's going on here. So I add my entity. It's here, and this CSBA, as I mentioned in the entity list, that's belonging to the publisher. So I said CONAT, and that's a shortcut here for CONAT Solutions Business Applications. So we see that's a custom entity. I add a second entity, and as I said, something like candidate was missing. I'll look here. No, doesn't know candidate, but it knows contact. And contact, that's a built-in entity, but it has all the information I want to collect from a candidate. So I select this option here. Next, include all components, say add, and it's here. And if I have this entity here, I could also say I want to edit this, maybe I want to remove it. Do I want to see which data is already stored in this entity? Because the common data service is the database where all the entity data is stored. So I could get the data, maybe I want to set it to Excel. And so I can see this here. Yeah, and what's the next point? I could go on edit, or I go here. Okay, it's here. And as we can see, such an entity has a lot of stuff we can manage. So first is the fields. And the address entity we saw is a part of the contact. So we see a lot of these fields right there here. And we can scroll down. So many fields. So it can be that we recognize, yeah, the contact entity is not the right one. We create our own. But for this session, we will go with this entity. And as you can see, you have a lot of stuff you can enter here. You can also manage some relationships. So maybe you want to manage that an application belongs to a contact here. Then you can do this too. You can create business rules. That's for custom validations. If you add a value to a special field and you want some validations there, then you can manage this here. You can create views. Views, that's a table view. So maybe you want to go with different filters, sorting, grouping of fields. That's what you find here. Forms, that's for adding a new contact, or if you want to view a single contact or to edit one. And here this is more regarding Power BI, business analytics, so you can create dashboards or charts if you want to go with. And if you go on data, you can have a first look what's in there. So we have two contacts here. They are both with my name, but with different email addresses. And for example, if I would have a rule that a full name is a unique field, then this wouldn't be possible, for example. Okay, but we see, okay, we are ready. We have a contact here. We have an application. The next step is we create our model-driven app. We are going with this. Yes, we need to sign in. Maybe I was too long on this first first tab. And we are in our solution with the publisher conet, so the prefix is already set for us. And we say we want to build our HR recruiting core services app. Here we want to manage all our candidates, all applications, and if we are thinking about people in our company who will do the interviews with the candidates, maybe they will get a Canvas Power App, so they can use this on a tablet or their smartphone to enter their evaluation. Here, the HR manager, she wants to have a full a full version app, so we will, this is here. All the other stuff I leave here as default. And this way here, that's not how you would expect maybe to build an application, because you have a focus really on your data, on your navigation, and on your business process. So sitemap, that's the navigation. We will do this in a few seconds, because first we need to decide which entities should be available in our application. And then we could also go with different dashboards and we can decide about our business process flow. So first, let's go with the entities. And as you can see here on the right side, we can go with the entities. I click on this and we see here our entities. And I say I want to go with application. Ah, it's added. And I will want to go with contact. And that's also added. And when I'm doing this in this way, then my entity with all forms, all views, charts, and dashboards is added. If I don't want to use all different forms, then I can click on it. I see here, okay, it's checked that all forms will be used. And if I unselect it, then I can decide which forms I want to use, or I could even create a new one. For this now, I say I want to go with all, because at the beginning we want to see what's going on here, right? So we could save, but as you can see here, play is grayed out. So that's maybe because the sitemap is not ready at the moment. So I save it first and I click on sitemap here on the pencil icon. Oh, and I'm in a new area here. So I'm here in the sitemap designer. And as you can see, your navigation has 3 levels. So I could first say new area is not a nice wording. So I call it master data. Then I will call this one core data, because I want to add the application and the candidate information there. Maybe I would add a separate area for lookup values like rating results or the different process steps or something else. So the sub area, if I click on this, I could also give it a name, but maybe I'm going another way, because you may have seen it for the 2 other levels that we have here a property panel. And the first thing I would do is here on the 3rd level, I would select a type. Let's say I want to link my entity. And which entity do I want to link? The first is the application. And as you can see here, these are language codes. So currently English is installed here. That's the language code. If you would have installed different languages, then you can add separate labels. So for example, here in English, that would be called applications. In German, it would be called Bewerbungen, and so on. And last but not least, a software developer would always tell you you need really good IDs because they are used internally in your application. You can go with these standard ones. It doesn't cause any errors, but I would recommend that you have an idea how to go with these IDs. So I say that's core data applications. So, okay. That's it. Core data had an ID 2, so I go here with core data. And I think master data had the same, so I say area master data. Okay, so we say save. We are not going with save and close, so we say publish. Because if you publish your sitemap, then it would be available for the others. If you forget to publish your sitemap or your whole app, then you can see this, but nobody else. So we have published our sitemap, and we are going back here to the app designer. And as you can see here, you have no warning icon anymore. So I say save again, because my sitemap was not belonging there at the moment. And then I could go with validate, but I go with publish because we didn't so much that we need a validation process. And let's play our application and see what's going on here so far. So we were not working on forms. We were not working on any views. We only added our first menu item for the navigation. You can see here we have master data applications. Core data is missing, but core data is here in the left navigation. So here you have the middle area not available at the moment, but here is the 2nd and the 3rd level, and we have our applications here. But what about our candidates? If we go back here, candidates or contacts, they were added here too, but we didn't add this to the sitemap. So maybe we have to go back here, and we need to add not an area. A sub area is nice, so add it here. Sub area, entity, we select the contact, leave it here. Name, or we call it candidates. And here, core data. I use the same prefix as I did for applications. Candidates. Everything's fine. Say save. We say publish. We go back to the app designer. We say play again. And we have our candidates here. And candidates, we had a look into the data on the entity itself. And so here we are not surprised that we get these 5 items at the moment. We have here these 2 Nicole entries right there. And if I go to new, then we see here, okay, we have a lot of contact information, but that is not so much as we had in the entity field list, if you remember. So maybe we go on details. Oh, that looks a little bit different. So we have some more information. So it's split up between these 2 views. In InfoPath, we have the views. So that's here in this form, that's a tab control, for example. And we have here different areas where we added our separate fields. So we can go with this one. As you can see here, you can click on it. That's not that you have a special view for adding or only viewing content. So we are on the new contact form and we could add all our data. If we go back here and we see all this data, then you can also create send a link to an entry via email, or we can also create flows with Power Automate to send some data. For example, if we have a candidate from a special region and you want to inform somebody or so, that would all be possible. If you are going with applications, and maybe I open this application here, we see something special. So what's about this process here? Maybe you already saw this as we were in the app designer. I will show you this, but let's stay here for a moment, because what can we see here? We see here e-recruiting application management, it's called, and it's active for 3 months. So this means that this application was added here 3 months ago, and we had the status new, we had the status initial rating, and now we are in the status interviews, and this since 33 days. If you would go to decision, and that's the last process step, then we could see, okay, the process is completed and we had a duration of whatever days. What we can also see here, this information of the application, that's nearly the same as we had the candidate information and the timeline that's for creating notes, that was also there. But we have here a third entity. We didn't add it to our app, but it's here because somebody added this rating entity to the form of our applications. And we also added document management here. So the forms have been customized. So where do we see this? We go back to the application designer. We go to our application, and first let's look at the forms again. So we have here different forms. We have an information form, we have an application form. So let's look what's going on there. And in PowerApps, you see at some steps you open new tabs. Here now a new browser window is opened in some kind of a model dialog. And here we are in PowerApps as we work with Canvas apps, for example. And if I go here and maybe I zoom in a little bit, then I can see, okay, I can create my custom form here. I have a property panel where I can edit the label of the field. I can decide if I want to hide the label, or if that was this option. If I want to get a read-only field, if I want to lock it, I could also work with rules to work there. And I can add different entities here as well, but that would be too much for this session. So I close this window here. I only want to show you where you can do this. So yes, I want to leave this. And we were also talking about this business process, and here is a very important point in your app designer for business process flows. And as you can see here, we have some out-of-the-box business process flows, but we have also this e-recruiting application management business process flow. And this one was added when I added the application entity, because the process belongs to the entity, not to our app. And if we add an entity, the default way is that all the business process flows and the roles and the forms, so everything is added, and we have to decide if we want to go with these options. So if we don't want this process to be done, then you could do some thing like this and unselect this. We could also unselect this business process flow, but then we have to select one of the out-of-the-box flows. And if we would remove this, then this line would disappear, and maybe another of the out-of-the-box flows would appear. So if I look on my watch, then I would say let's go back to the slides and check what we have done or what is left. So what do we need to become a business application superstar? I have 5 steps, and they are not technical at all. So the first step is take responsibility. Understand that you are a citizen developer and you can build your own business applications. You have tools like the Power Platform. So I would recommend start with PowerApps. Maybe start with 1 or 2 Canvas apps, so you get familiar with the tool set itself. And then if you have business processes and you know which data has to be collected, how you want to do the reporting of your data, and what's about the process and the different rules which you have to consider in your process, then create a quick win solution. So like Tanya, maybe at first she needs a place where all the candidate information is stored, and the next quick win solution could be, if somebody gets a new job at the company, then she can reuse this data because it's already stored in her company. And the 4th point, inspire your colleagues. Together we achieve so much more. And if you talk about what you are doing, then that's the 5th step. And if you share your knowledge, then you can create, evolve some kind of a community in your company. You can help each other, and it doesn't mean that you will never ever need a software developer, but you can do many solutions on your own. maybe you need somebody you can talk with him and get some best practices and so on. But please be brave. Try to get your business solutions, and then I wish you a cool trip with all these tools. I think you can build many solutions and share this with the others. There's a great community out there, and we help each other again each day. So thank you very much. And if you are interested in talking with me here, you find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. So I have a QR code here, or let's talk on my blog about the Power Platform. So again, thank you so much, and I wish you a great week during this event. Bye.